Thank you, Kevin. I'm humbled by that introduction. I'm honored to be speaking at this town hall, commemorating community leaders, my brotherhood, first responders, your community heroes. Before that, I just want to begin to share with you that I have never spoken on this solemn day. As I stand here before you, I must confess, my mind is absorbed with thoughts, feelings, and memories. FirstAmerican Mortgage Solutions, Kevin, thank you. For today is a living example of the phrase, never forget. 17 years ago, on this very day, in just 102 minutes, almost 3,000 innocent civilians were lost, 343 FDNY firefighters, 23 NYPD officers, 37 Port Authority officers, and numerous other public servants all made the supreme sacrifice. Sadly, we are continuing to lose hundreds and eventually thousands more in the years to come due to the exposure to the hazardous environment that existed on September 11th and the months following. While operating at the September 11 terrorist attacks under overwhelming odds, I witnessed supreme sacrifice and heroisms by first responders and civilians alike. This experience has reinforced my faith, my patriotism, and has deepened my true understanding of the value of freedom. From the very first day that I set foot in this wonderful country as a 6-year-old boy, an immigrant from Ecuador, South America, to the day that I took my sworn oath of allegiance of these United States, my family has reaped these blessings of freedom. I can think of no better way to talk about patriotism and freedom than to share part of my stories and my experiences in response to the World Trade Center on September 11th. As the acting battalion chief of the FDNY Marine Division, situated at the Brooklyn Navy Yard in the East River, I had a stunning and unrestricted view of the imposing World Trade Center towers. On that fateful morning, after being notified by my secretary that a plane had crashed into the North Tower, I walked over to my window and I was stunned to see the upper floors of the North Tower, heavy fire throughout, volumes of dark petroleum-based smoke emanating from the crater that was created when the airliner ripped to the facade of the tower, tearing into numerous floors. As first responders routinely do, my mind immediately started racing, deciding how could my division assist in the enormous efforts to be required. I boarded my fireboat and headed to the World Trade Center towers via the East River, anticipating that in just a few minutes we would be rounding the tip of Lower Manhattan, and I could berth at an existing marina that would place me just 3 blocks from the FDNY command post. After a few minutes, as my fireboat was nearing the tip of the Lower Manhattan, I noticed a commercial airliner. It was flying extremely low as it passed in front of my fireboat and then began to circle 180 degrees back towards the towers. It flew lower and directly above and past my fireboat as I heard the massive engines roaring loudly as the pilot was clearly increasing the velocity of the plane and started banking his wings to the left. Even at this moment in time, I could not comprehend what was to happen before my very eyes. The plane deliberately crashed into the South Tower from the southern exposure, ripping into as many floors as possible with the now larger wingspan. A massive explosion and fireball erupted that totally engulfed the upper portion of the South Tower. It was at this moment that I grabbed my firefighter, my aide, by the shoulder, and I stated to him, "We're under attack." The moment was surreal, and I quickly realized that the enormity of the developing disaster just doubled in size. It was also at this moment, while we were in such close proximity to the South Tower at the water's edge, that the agonizing reality, which has remained with me to this very day, began to hit me hard as I first began to witness civilians jumping from the buildings. As I reported in, I met with Chief Ray Downey, Chief in charge of Special Operations Command, a dear friend. Ray and I instantly met, as we knew we were against a disaster that we'd never have experienced before, working alongside Ray at numerous national and international disasters. Units continued to support into the command post. They received their orders, and many of the officers hand saluted and continued on their way to execute their instructions, and sadly, many to the ultimate faith. While relaying information, I suddenly noticed at the corner of my eye, the South Tower was beginning to buckle. I thought, it's coming down. It's collapsing. I knew I didn't have much time. I ran a few feet to an underground parking lot, the staging area. I crouched down next to a dividing wall and put my arms and hands over my head, and I started reciting the Hail Mary. The all-enveloping noise sounded like a freight train coming closer and closer. Instantly, everything turned black. There was no air to breathe, no visibility. I soon realized that the building where I was seeking shelter withstood the massive collapse of the South Tower, and that I too had survived. I found my way out of the building, and when I reached outside, I could not believe my eyes. Crushed cars, debris, 10 to 20 feet mounds, and World Trade Center chalky dust flying everywhere. As I continued to walk to West Street, where the FDNY command post was, I was stunned to see that the entire South Tower, all 110 stories, had collapsed in a pancake-type fashion into colossal mounds of mangled steel and debris. The scene was total devastation, fires burning everywhere. It was a war zone. Suddenly, Ray Downey appeared next to me and said, "We just lost a lot of good men." I agreed. And he continued to speak softly, "Where the hell are the fighter pilots?" Ray, being a United States Marine, was always a step ahead of everyone else, as he had earlier requested for military air support to cover the World Trade Center sky while we were trying to evacuate both towers, since he was notified of a third plane missing and coming in to attack us again. As first responders, we're hardwired. We're hardwired to perform this job, many times at extreme risk to ourselves. I remained in the middle of West Street and acted as a lookout for falling objects and debris that was still raining from the still standing and burning North Tower, while Ray and the other survivors were awaiting my hand signals as to the precise moment that they could exit and walk across the landscape from the partially collapsed Marriott Hotel and avoid from being struck. Suddenly, I heard that dreadful raging sound again, and I looked up to see the North Tower rapidly collapsing onwards. Because of the 16 treacherous ground, I could not run fast enough. I turned to my left, I put my right arm over my head, and again crouched down and got ready for the hit. I once more began reciting the Hail Mary, as I believed that my time in this earth was coming to a fast end. The collapse of the North Tower was immediate, 8 to 10 seconds. Ray and the others were heroically and instantly killed. Ray was identified 6 months later to DNA. I received a severe blow to my head, which resulted in a skull fracture. I was scalped. My chest area was crushed, breaking 9 ribs and collapsing my left lung. I was rendered unconscious, and I remained buried and trapped for almost 2 hours. Periodically, as when I was in and out of consciousness, I was able to relay urgent transmissions to the Manhattan 911 dispatcher, informing them that I and others were buried, we were alive, trapped, and that we needed immediate assistance. After 2 hours, I was located by firefighters that responded from home, extricated, and transported me across the Hudson River by fireboat to the Jersey City Medical Center. In the emergency room, I had surgery on my skull. I was given a tracheotomy. I was drug-induced into a coma in order to reduce the stress on my brain and my body. My left lung collapsed as it was punctured by one of my 9 broken ribs, and they were both chemically burnt. I remained in a coma with assistance from a mechanical respirator for weeks, and eventually was slowly weaned out of this drug-induced coma. I have always wondered how and why I did survive when so many of my brothers died. I have learned much from that fateful day of 9/11. I saw the worst, but I saw the best in humanity. I have always chosen to talk about the best. It is therefore with that mindset that I would like to share with you just a few of the many heroic stories of bravery, of service, of commitment that I witnessed that fateful day. Friend and co-worker, FDNY Captain Terry Hatton of Rescue 1 died heroically on 9/11. A common friend of ours, firefighter Tim Brown from OEM, Office of Emergency Management, is Terry Hatton's best friend. Tim was in the lobby of the North Tower when Terry Hatton and his rescue unit arrived. It seems clear now that the commander of Rescue 1, Terry, knew what he and his unit will soon be in for. Timmy stated, I went over to him, and Terry, wrapped his arms around me and gave me a kiss on the cheek. And he said, love you, brother. Don't know if I'll see you again. As he and his men proceeded into the stairwell to carry out their mission. Another friend and brother firefighter, Joe Angelini, whom I worked alongside for years in Rescue 1, heroically died on 9/11. Joe represents to me what a father is all about. He died together with his son, Joe Jr., who was also a firefighter on 9/11, working in another unit. Smokey Joey, as he was affectionately called, performed the duties of a firefighter in one of the busiest firehouses in New York City. Joe was 63 years young at the time and performing a young man's job. I worked with Joe, Manhattan's Rescue 1, for about 5 years. He was a small man, 5'6", small body frame, weighing approximately 160 pounds, soaking wet. But Joe, as all these first responders, had a heart as big as the city that they serve. I strongly believe that there was no way that Joe was leaving without his son. When the North Tower was totally being evacuated, first responders included, one firefighter noticed Joey in the street and advised them that everyone was ordered to evacuate the World Trade Center complex. Joe calmly said he was continuing to the North Tower to assist the members committed to the rescue. Joe was looking for his son. I talked to a lieutenant, a friend who was present when they recovered what was left of Joe's remains. He explained to me that as they carefully extricated him, they found Joe with his arms around a female civilian that he was noticeably carrying out. Joe never located his son. However, they're together now, working alongside Joe for years. I know he was not leaving. That was Joe's way. This type of uncommon valor was not just limited to uniformed personnel. Many civilians responded to assist their fellow man. Individuals like Edward Calderon. Ed told a colleague that survived that he was staying inside the towers to help with the evacuations. He stated to this individual, as many of my brothers believe, I am a Marine. We do not leave anyone behind. It has been written that the ancient Greeks stated and believed that character is destiny. I believe this to be true. On that fateful day of September 11th, first responders and many others rose to the occasion to help their fellow man with courage and with determination. It is my belief that the rescuers that perished at the World Trade Center towers did not die as victims of a terrorist attack, but as heroes who prevented an even greater colossal life loss. They were responsible for the greatest rescue performed in the civilized world. Over 25,000 lives were saved. I have been given a gift, and I'm living my life with a promise to honor their memory. The September 11 attacks brutally assaulted my body and my mind. However, know that I am much, much better and stronger. I have endured, and I am a far better person due to my challenging experience. I have been honored to have soared with eagles. They are now gone, but as we have so lovingly noted today in this town hall meeting, they are not forgotten. I have learned to cherish our freedoms and to defend it when called, to deeply cherish family and friends. And I have learned to truly appreciate the value of the beautiful experience of being alive. It has been exhausting and demanding to verbalize and recall the events of September 11th, and to grasp that this very day, Tuesday, is the 17th anniversary. I am truly humbled and honored that you, First American Mortgage Solutions, invited me here to share part of my story. On this day, all across our great nation, our fellow Americans will pause to remember, to praise those that we lost with love, with strength, and with honor. It is my hope that today, as in all future 9/11 tributes, that you will hear Americans across our great nation state, on this fateful day, as a great people, as Americans, we were called upon and we responded to defend our nation. God bless you, God bless first responders, and God bless America. Thank you.